Hi, welcome to Hollywood. This is Josh.
And this is Carter. It's good to be back, Josh. How you been doing?
Doing well. We took one of those mid-season hiatuses.
We did.
That's the thing right now.
It's a big thing, and we're superstars, so we do that.
Exactly. I was holding out. I wanted the all green M&Ms, and there were a few blue in there, and I couldn't have that. So
Yeah, forget that. That's just disrespectful.
So today we're going to discuss the Batman Beyond franchise as a movie.
Yeah, Batman Beyond, for those of you who don't know or maybe completely missed the series, was a cartoon in the early 2000s. It takes place about 30 years after the events of Batman the Animated Series, when Batman was at his prime. And usually, we come into the story, Batman is long since retired due to age, because he's not, a superhero in the power terms. He's a gadgeteer. Therefore, he does age like a normal human. So he's been old and retired, and set story in motion. A young kid takes up the mantle of being the Bat.
It also delves into some of the events that took place in between the animated series and Batman Beyond.
Yeah, they do some good flashbacks here and there, and they do kind of open up with it in the animated series. And honestly, it was a series that ended way before it should have. It had really gotten its stride. The writing was excellent. The animation was great. The voice acting was great. Kevin Conroy was back still as Bruce Wayne, and there hasn't ever been a better Bruce Wayne as far as when you're speaking about voice acting, because to be fair, he is the voice I think of whenever I'm reading a graphic novel, I'm reading a comic. It's his voice I hear.
I certainly hope it's not Christian Bale's.
Oh, Jesus, no. Kevin Conroy has understood the part for the entire run he's been doing it. He's been doing it since the early 90s with Batman the Animated Series, and he understood the fact that Bruce Wayne was the mask, Batman was the real individual. And it really shined through in every performance he gave, where he would disguise his voice whenever he was Bruce. Rest of the time, his voice was much deeper, he was much more sullen, and much more withdrawn. And he got it. He really did. That Bruce was the mask. And, props to him for understanding. Not to mention, when they did, Batman Beyond did a one-shot TV movie deal when it was direct to DVD, but they did show it on TV eventually. It was Batman, was it Return of the Joker or Rise of the Joker? I forget.
It was Return of the Joker.
Return of the Joker, Joker comes back, Batman thought he was long gone, and lo and behold.
It's hard to kill the Joker.
You can't really have a Batman story without Joker popping in at least once. I mean, he's the greatest enemy of all time. Definitely one of the greatest comic villains of all time. You can't do it. You just have to have him introduced. And one of the things I really loved about Batman Beyond was the fact that in the future there's a gang roving around called the Jokers, and their leader tries to dress like the Joker, and it's kind of like an homage to there was this great crime boss, and we're all trying to be like him. And
it's kind of like a cult.
Mm-hmm. I think some sort of weird cult, and really developed well for what they were doing, because Joker was gone, but his legend lives on, just like the legend of the Bat.
It kind of reminded me of remember the Warriors movie?
Mm-hmm.
They were like a gang, like one of those.
Yeah, it really did. It really did. And Batman Beyond just understood, but it was canceled. I don't know why it was canceled when it was. As my understanding was, the ratings were decent, especially for being on the WB at the time.
I think they wanted to move into the Justice League show.
They did. The animators and the voice actors all went and did the Justice League, which was props to them. I really do believe they could have done both. I mean, if you can get the same animators now doing, Family Guy and American Dad, and pretty much the same voice actors,
Yeah.
then you could certainly do 2 cartoons at one time with that. But it was whatever. It was canceled way before it should have been. And we kind of got left hanging with, there was no real resolution to the series. But there really isn't with that type of thing. I mean, there's never going to be a great resolution to a comic series.
They did an epilogue episode in Justice League. It's either Justice League or Justice League Unlimited. So, I mean, they gave an effort, which they didn't really have to.
Actually, they kind of gave 2. There were 2 episodes during the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited run. There was the one where they did the flashback with... it was kind of like it took place in the Batman Beyond universe, and then they did a flashback to the Justice League era, telling a story about Bruce. And then there was a second one. It was a time traveling episode. One of my favorite episodes is the Justice League one, and where they got sucked into a time vortex. They were dealing with a henchman who was running back and forth through time, stealing all kinds of stuff, and they ended up in the Batman Beyond universe, which was really funny because Bruce was with them, so Bruce got to meet older Bruce. One of my favorite lines was...
He's a sourpuss in his old age.
He was a sourpuss in his young age.
Oh, yeah. It just got worse.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, but you've ever been around an old man who spent his life fighting, it does get worse.
I see Bruce as like an old Ole Anderson.
I'm just thinking more bitter than... Yeah, actually, yeah, Ole.
Yeah. If you don't know who Ole Anderson is, YouTube him.
Yeah, everyone should definitely go just look up on YouTube Ole Anderson angry.
He was always angry.
He was always angry. Man, has he really gotten bitter. But, with Batman, it really did end well. And I would love to see, and Josh, you discussed this with me, a live action take.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally live action movie on Batman Beyond. I think it would be great for the big screen. And the thing is, you could do live action in a TV series, but with it being futuristic and if you looked at the animation, a lot of it I felt was an homage to Blade Runner.
Yeah, there's not too many cyberpunk things out there.
There really aren't, and it was a really, well done in that respect. I felt like I said, it was an homage to Blade Runner. So to do something on that grand of a scale, I really do think you would need to do big budget cinema if you're doing live action.
And also Terry McGinnis, he also has the ability to fly, and you don't want that to look kind of cheesy on TV. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I mean, TV, you're kind of bound by either really bad CGI or wire work. Which wire work on TV, like they do it on Arrow, and they did it on Smallville, and it looks okay, but you can still tell it's wire work.
Yeah.
It's just, the gravity of how the human body is attached to wires. It's very hard to disguise. So you could, it would be much better with a movie studio backing the financing of it. So, to start off with, I would love for them to keep the cyberpunk theme. But if going to the hardcore, who would you cast? I mean, who would you go with Bruce? Bruce is the, probably best supporting actor, role, because that's how I dream. But, the greatest Batman of all time, you're going to go with the best supporting actor you can get. So who would you go with, Josh?
There's so many of the old action heroes they're of that age now.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go with either like a Harrison Ford or Clint Eastwood, someone like that. So an iconic older actor to sort of pass the torch on to Terry.
Clint Eastwood would be good, very good. He could definitely do the better role perfectly because that's his bread and butter right now. made by seeing Gran Torino. Me, I would go with Michael Keaton.
From the Tim Burton Batman movies.
Bring it back. I want Michael Keaton because Michael Keaton's much older now.
He's having a career resurgence, like Birdman and things like that.
Yeah, he really is right now. And I think he would be perfect to play an older, bitter Bruce because he's already proven that he understands the role of Batman. He was at
least the best Bruce Wayne, I think.
He was definitely the best Bruce Wayne. I think George Clooney could have been the best Bruce Wayne, but
he called that in.
Well, that wasn't his fault. If I had read that script, I would have called it into him and like, this is a paycheck. This is only a paycheck. I'll go back to ER after this. But yeah, I would go with Michael Keaton, definitely. I'll definitely second, either Harrison Ford or Clint Eastwood to go in there too. But I think I also think the audience would connect with the nostalgia of seeing Michael Keaton come back in again.
For Terry, would you go with an unknown, or did you think?
Definitely, because actors of that age, because Terry McGinnis is around. He's still in high school.
Yeah, he's like a Robin's age, but he's Batman.
Yeah, very Dick Grayson at this age. Not, early Dick Grayson when he first met Batman, but that whole high school era.
It's kind of like Peter Parker.
Yeah, about a Peter Parker age. So we're looking at, 17 years old, roughly. I would go with probably an unknown, because it's really hard. Actors at that age are very hit and miss. And possibly, it might sound strange, but maybe an English actor at that age, and this is just my take on the whole English versus American actor. The English actors take their craft much more seriously. And that's where, modern acting was truly invented, was in England.
Yeah.
If we be fair about it. And they take their jobs much more seriously. They're not in it so much as for the star power as they are because they want to be actors.
They don't have like the Justin Bieber ego.
Yeah, and that's what I'm kind of...
Even though he's Canadian, but,
Yeah. They would cast like Zac Efron or somebody, Yeah, I mean, things like that could happen. So I would try to go with an unknown, possibly a British actor.
Because I don't think if the rest of the cast is pretty well known, I think with the younger characters you can go with having unknowns. It's kind of like with the first Superman movie. They had Gene Hackman, they had Marlon Brando, and then Christopher Reeve, who nobody really knew who he was.
No, or Margot Kidder.
Yeah.
And that worked really well. So I would go with an unknown, let him kind of establish himself, because if that person does well in this role, then they've got themselves a franchise.
Oh yeah, look at like Chris Hemsworth. Like no one really knew who he was before Thor.
And same thing with it kind of put Tobey Maguire on the map. And did the same with Chris Evans too. And you want to think about it. And definitely with Chris Pratt. Everybody knew Chris Pratt is just kind of, hey, he's the fat kid from Parks and Rec. And suddenly, no, he's a chiseled dude who is Star-Lord.
He's a big-time movie star now. They're saying he might be Indiana Jones, the next one. So.
That's what I've heard. They're going to do the reboot of the Indiana Jones series.
But the superhero movies, they're different in the fact that nobody really pays attention as much who the actors are as who the characters are.
That's true.
Like, nobody went to see Spider-Man because Tobey Maguire's in it. They went to see the Spider-Man's in it.
Yeah, and that's what we forget. And Hugh Jackman, nobody really knew too much about Hugh Jackman until the first X-Men movie.
Yeah, he's
and
got
X-Men
a nice career, too.
Yeah, it really has. Like, past near 20 years, he has been Wolverine. When you think about it, it has been when did X-Men hit? 2000?
Yeah, 2000.
Yeah, so it's been 15 years as him as Wolverine. That's a long time, and props to him for being able to do that. So, yeah, if you can get an unknown who is a really good actor, incredibly solid, to pull it off at such a young age, then you can do it. And he doesn't even have to be that age. He just kind of has to look that age. Because it's Hollywood. So suspension of disbelief. He looks that age.
I think the same with Terry's friends, like Maxine Gibson and Dana Tan. Same situation.
Oh, definitely same situation. You don't need anybody with a name in those roles either. Dana is a very minor part in the whole. And for those of you who don't know, Dana is Terry's girlfriend in the series. Now, for those of you who may not have seen this, the basic early premise is Terry's dad is killed in in what looks to be a gang assault by the Jokers. But there are questions abound as to, was this really a gang assault? Was it made to look like a gang assault? So Terry's dad dies very early. And for his dad, his dad had a very crucial part in that whole forming. And I would try to get somebody.
He was kind of like the Uncle Ben of Batman Beyond.
Yeah, very Uncle Ben-like, very, Thomas Wayne. And of course that's what attracts, Bruce to Terry in the long term, is they share that pain, much like Dick Grayson did.
Tim Drake, when his mom was killed.
Tim Drake's mom was killed?
Yeah, she was killed by a I forget what it was, like not one of the main supervillains. It was like a D-list.
Yeah.
What was the name of it? But yeah, his mom was killed. His dad was killed later on. I know they've rebooted all this stuff since. I'm not sure what it is in 52, but.
Oh, everybody's back alive, and they're probably Asian at this point.
How about Commissioner Barbara Gordon?
Ooh, well, Barbara by this time is at least 50-something, if not 60. Here's the key. Here's what really kind of got me in the series. In the comic series, what important thing happens to Barbara?
In the comics, she's paralyzed by the Joker.
That's right. In The Killing Joke, great graphic novel, looking at it on my shelf right now. She is paralyzed, but in the Batman Beyond series, she's actually become commissioner because, her dad would have been long passed away by this point, and she's like 50-something years old, maybe 60. So, medical advances, she could probably be walking around at this point. It is the future after all, so maybe they were able to cure her paralysis or...
So I do know the new 52, Barbara was crippled, but she's back as Batgirl. I guess there's some sort of... She can walk again.
I saw that. So, we'll leave the 52 for another day. Do
you think maybe like Julianne Moore?
Julianne Moore looks too young for me. I don't know, but yeah, we could definitely go Julianne Moore. Julianne Moore would be fantastic in that role. I would definitely second that.
She has that like authoritative vibe, I think.
She's very authoritative. Yeah, it has to be somebody with kind of that definitely cop mentality. Tough as nails. And, Barbara was always very, very sexy. And I think Julianne Moore can definitely pull that off. Tough as nails, but kind of sexy in the same suit. The one thing I didn't like about the Batman Beyond series was the first supervillain they introduced. It was that Powers guy.
Oh, Derek Powers.
Derek Powers, yeah. They introduced him, and
he's kind of like a Lex Luthor type villain.
Yeah, but then he gets superpowers and becomes like Atomic Skull, but he's not Atomic Skull. He calls himself Blight.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is just Atomic Skull. Right? What are you all doing? Anyway. And it just kind of always bugged me. But that's the crucial part. Who do you bring back as the first villain?
First villain, I'd say the Joker.
I kind of want to save the Joker.
Save the Joker? But when it is the Joker, I say Mark Hamill.
God, that would be fantastic to watch Mark Hamill do a live-action Joker.
Because he would be of about the same age, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
of an older Joker.
But, well, do you remember the premise of Rise of the Joker? Or Return of the Joker, I'm sorry?
He was trapped in, was it Drake's body or Dick's?
He was his mind was trapped inside Tim Drake's mind in a subconscious that was later was able to be released at a later time, which was really futuristically crazy, but it was like Joker hadn't aged.
Yeah. I'd age him, honestly.
You can age him?
Yeah.
So you're saying that Joker, even though Bruce has been retired, Joker's still alive?
Yeah.
I mean, they did that in Dark Knight by God. Who's what was it? It wasn't Alan Moore who did it, was it?
The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
That was Frank Miller. Alan Moore did the Killing Joke.
Yeah, that's right. God, those are two guys. If you listeners out there, if you've never read any Alan Moore or Frank Miller work, really do so. Do yourself a favor. Those guys are responsible for some of the best works ever done in comics. And yeah, Alan Moore's crazy. And he really is. But he has done so much important work.
Most notably, The Watchmen.
V.
Yeah, had a good run on Swamp Thing.
He reimagined Swamp Thing. I mean, who thought that was going to be possible?
The reason I'd go with an older Joker, though, I'm thinking you're going to have to spend like 15, 20 minutes probably explaining why Joker's younger.
Yeah, but that always does become an interesting subplot. You don't have to. I'm not saying you. I mean, your idea is solid. Joker could be locked up in Arkham, and then here's that Batman's back, and just comes back out of retirement himself. Just like he pulls that whole thing from Dark Knight Returns, and comes back because there's still business to be done. For my first film, I like saving the Joker, though. I'd save the Joker for
part 2?
Part 2 or 3? 3 maybe, because I want a Big Bang cumulative, because that's the trend right now, is to do a trilogy.
Yeah. Actually, with the Joker, he can have a whole army with the Jokers. Like the Joker and then the Joker's gang.
I would still introduce the Joker's gang in the first one.
Yeah, earlier, but I'm saying he'd have an army already established by the time he showed up. Do you know what I mean?
It's definitely there. Like, the groundwork's getting laid for the Joker.
Yeah.
Start laying the groundwork, but I mean, so many villains to really choose from in the Batman pantheon.
Mr. Freeze had a big appearance in.
He did, and that episode was so great. And even the one-liners Mr. Freeze was using in that, and it proved that one-liners can be done well when used in proper context.
And now with the Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, absolutely not. We're not getting started on that. I'm not letting you suck me in on that, Josh.
You know who I would love to see as Mr. Freeze?
Who would you like to see as Mr. Freeze?
Bryan Cranston.
Wow. Oh, okay, I second that. If you put in Mr. Freeze, definitely Bryan Cranston. He can nail that part in a heartbeat. If we're thinking Return, I'm going to go with Roz for the first one.
Oh, okay, with his Lazarus.
Yeah, I mean, Roz is immortal, and you and I discussed this earlier. You just watched the Batman Beyond episode with the Return of Roz, which I'm not going to give any spoilers away for anyone who hasn't seen it, but that is one of the most messed up episodes of any superhero cartoon I have ever seen. Fantastic episode, too.
Very Twilight Zone-ish, I would say.
Or, you can kind of go Bane. Bane or son of Bane, which is very possible because he's Bane.
Yeah.
But I like Roz or Mr. Freeze getting thrown into the mix. Penguin would be long dead by this point.
Yeah, I would think he would be older. I think Riddler would probably be too old. I mean, a lot of the rogues too old. I mean, you could go through a wrench for like Dula Dent or something like that, the Joker's daughter, but I don't think that's.
Everybody will be too old like Bruce, because Bruce can't be Batman anymore, and Bruce is pretty much assumed the role of Oracle at this point.
Yeah.
You know, he's sitting in the Watchtower throwing out commands to Batman.
I think Blight could work. I mean, it doesn't have to be just like the cartoon. You know what I mean? They change things a bit. I think you could make that character work.
I would just do it as Atomic Skull. I mean, your DC own the rights.
Yeah.
No,
it's basically a Lex Luthor with superpowers, pretty much.
Yeah, more or less. You could also go with Riddler, because Riddler might be old, but the mind doesn't die that quickly. Also, throwing it out there, Killer Orca.
Some of the newer villains.
Oh no, you don't remember Killer Orca?
Was he from Arkham Asylum?
Orca, yeah, Orca was long ago. You know, villain dressed up like a killer whale, basically called himself Orca. Dr. Grace Balin. Dr. Grace Balin, seeking refuge, doing along Gotham's depressed waterfront. Very one-shot villain. It was very crazy. There was also, Firefly, Killer Croc. Those guys would be dead by that point. In fact, most of the guys, when you look at the Batman Pantheon, you would have to introduce some new ones if you're doing a really long stretch of movies. But, for the first one, I would definitely put in Roz. Like, we're in a futuristic society.
Yeah.
Everything is still going to hell. It's like kind of bright and shiny, but there's that seedy criminal underbelly that's still pulling strings. It's no good for everybody. That's why I'm, thinking Roz could be the same age, easy, because
he's pretty much immortal.
He's immortal, but if you're casting Joker in it, definitely Mark Hamill.
Yeah,
without a doubt, in my mind, that he could do it. And he was the voice of Joker in Batman the Animated Series, in Superman the Animated Series, in Justice League, so on and so forth.
New Batman Arkham Asylum games.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's done it better. And he's the other voice I always hear when I'm reading comics. I hear Mark Hamill's voice. I don't hear Heath Ledger's, I don't hear Jack Nicholson, I don't hear Cesar Romero. I hear Mark Hamill. Not to say that any of those aforementioned performances were not fantastic, but to me, the pinnacle was always Mark Hamill's voice.
I just love to see him do live action.
I almost did it in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Oh, what was his name?
Oh,
he had the giant hand. Oh yeah, the cock knocker.
Can we say that?
Yeah, we can say it.
You say that? Okay. I'll go with that. And yeah, you could introduce Blight again, which if you want to redo the first episode of Batman Beyond the TV show as the movie, because that was kind of a two-part episode, so you could do it as a movie theoretically with the same plot devices. It works.
Yeah.
It works. But I would definitely, and I think we're both in agreement that we could do the Joker gang. It would be a fantastic piece. I want to make sure, like one of the big things is the futuristic cars and everything. I felt like the motorcycles and cars used were kind of a hint from Akira.
Yeah.
And that same kind of cyberpunk future. I definitely want those bikes in there, especially when you get Terry, in his off time riding around a bike that looked just like Tetsuo's. That would be fantastic. I'm a huge geek for Akira. I can't help it.
I love Akira too.
That's a great
The
film.
South Park almost kind of ruined it for me. The Trapper Keeper.
The Trapper. God, I forgot about that episode until you just mentioned it, because that was in the early stages of South Park.
Yeah, that's one of the first. That may be the very first season. That's early on.
That's either first or second. That was a very early episode. I hate the fact that, when you're in the future, you're losing a lot of the villains, too. Like, everybody's gotten old and would have to be dead by this point. Dead or too old to fight.
Yeah.
Like, Mr. Freeze could still be alive because he's more or less cryogenically frozen.
Yeah, he's sort of lost even more humanity than he did in his younger days.
Yeah. And definitely anybody listening to this, if you have not seen the Mr. Freeze episode of Batman Beyond, go watch it. You're doing yourself a favor to a great, 20-minute cartoon. Like, it was a very chilling and kind of moving episode in a way. Let's say we go with the Joker, all right? Yeah, we'll do Blight, first movie. Joker, third. Who's in the second, though?
Freeze.
You want to do Freeze?
If you have Cranston as Freeze, man, he could carry that film on his own.
Really good. And
so let's say Blight and the Joker's in the first. Kind of a combo.
You don't think that's too much, putting two villains in one movie?
Well, I'm not saying the Jokers are the overall villain. I'm just saying that they'd have a villainous scene or two, you know what I mean? They tie in with, like, Terry's origin, and then you sort of move past them and get to Blight.
You kind of need the Jokers in all of the movies, because they're all going to tie in. But... yeah, definitely Bryan Cranston is number... And I feel like that would actually get Bryan Cranston an Oscar, much like Heath Ledger won an Oscar, even though it was after his death, unfortunately. But I think it would be the same case in a second Batman Beyond movie where the villain might carry the film. Because, let's face it, Heath Ledger is the biggest reason that The Dark Knight did as well as it did. By the way, this episode is brought to you by Diet Mountain Dew.
There you go. What's their catchphrase now? Like, they changed their... I don't watch too much commercials anymore.
Me neither. I'm usually stuck on Netflix or another streaming site.
Oh, and Batman Beyond is on Netflix, so if you're listening to it in February of 2015, it's on there right now. If you're listening to it in the future... maybe not.
I've actually had, because, my kids were born after the series had aired, and after really the Justice League was just about ending too, so I've gotten to sit down with them and watch these with them, and that's one of the great things. I'm going to have a dad moment right now for you guys. That's one of the great things about being a dad is you can relive old cartoons with your kids. And a lot of times they really will enjoy them. Not only Batman. I got my kids a couple of weeks ago. We sat down and I had my oldest watch the Transformers the movie.
Oh, the animated movie?
Yeah.
It was always they kill. I'm not gonna spoil it.
Yeah.
Whose last film was that? That was like Orson Welles' last film, right?
Yeah, that was Orson Welles' last film. You are very correct on that. It was, and. I know what part you're referring to, and I had to do a lot of explaining to my 8-year-old about that.
It'd be bad.
Well, I didn't say that either because I really didn't want to spoil run for him, but I did have to go over with, yes, this can happen. And he was pretty torn up about it, and understandably why, but that also shows, one, my kid has a big heart, but two, that cartoons and comics can move us.
Yeah.
And I think cartoons really do get a bad rap. And I think Batman Beyond could be it could really introduce the public to the cyberpunk era again, because it's been forever since we've seen a movie.
The closest is probably like Tron Legacy, wouldn't you say? It's not exactly cyberpunk, but it's like leans more that way.
It does lean towards that way, but man, Tron Legacy was a train wreck.
It was cool looking. It was a cool looking Daft Punk music video.
Yeah, that's pretty much basically what it was. It was like, hey, let's play Daft Punk for 2 hours and watch a Disney film. And poor Jeff Bridges.
The creepy CGI making them younger.
Oh.
It's a little strange.
I mean, sometimes, CGI like that works. Ask Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Interesting fact, the year that Iron Man came out and Hulk came out, it was like, for best special effects, there were 3 big movies up. Iron Man, Hulk, and Benjamin Button. Benjamin Button won best special effects over those movies.
That's impressive.
It is impressive, and I really called the BS on it when I saw it, but then I went and watched The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and I was like, well, they really did do an impressive job with this.
If you could top the Hulk, you're doing pretty good. The Incredible Hulk, not the Ang Lee. We won't talk about that.
No. That goes in the vault of things we want to forget. And I was, I watched, and the thing about Benjamin Button that got me was they didn't screw up once. Because you'll nail that part where something's going to screw up and you're going to catch them.
Yeah.
So they paid their CGI people well. If Hollywood would just make us a Batman Beyond film. I mean, I know the market is currently saturated with superhero films, and a lot of people are feeling like the bubble's going to burst. I don't blame them for thinking that way, because we're getting a lot now.
But it's weird they think it's going to burst like Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, that movie's going to suck. It's got a raccoon and a talking tree. And that just blew people's minds.
I didn't think that movie was going to suck. I really didn't, but I'm worried about Ant-Man.
I am worried about Ant-Man, but I don't think, even if it's bad, I don't think it's going to be the straw that broke the camel's back by any means.
I don't know. I just don't know. Are we missing any other characters from Batman Beyond that need to be brought into a trilogy of movies?
Well, we did Terry, we did his friends. I think it'd be interesting to visit like some of the older characters, like Selena Kyle, Catwoman. An older Selena would be interesting to me.
Selena lives. She was younger than Bruce to begin with, and of course in peak physical condition.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why she wouldn't be alive. Maybe currently incarcerated, but doubtful, because Selena does do a big face turn. I mean, it's kind of anti-hero face turn, but still there. I mean, she does fight more along Bruce's side than not for the past couple of years.
Yeah, she's a thief, not a killer. That's a difference between her and a lot of his rogues.
Yeah, unless like she was taken out by Joker or Harley.
It's Harley Quinn. What do you think about her in the...
Well, Harley in the series, you do see her. Did you catch that episode?
I don't think I saw that one.
Oh, it was it was just kind of 2 lines. Yeah, forget what the whole episode was about, but the end of it, like, Terry had taken out most of the Jokers, the Jokers. And 2 of the Jokers were twins named Dee Dee. You remember those 2?
Yeah.
Yeah. So someone goes to pick them up out of jail, and she starts yelling at them, and they just go, "Sorry, Aunt Harley." And I thought, and that just made me have the biggest grin. I'm like, oh my God, Harley's alive, and she's apparently back to sanity. Which was really kind of surprising, because I'm like, she's not only is she alive, but she's normal now again.
They might have better mental treatment in the future.
Well, yeah, I guess they would. And Harley wasn't always broken. If everybody recalls, she was originally a psychologist. Dr. Harley Quinzel. Once you go that old ad, what's the chances of a woman named Harley Quinzel being named Harley Quinn?
Yeah.
Otto Octavius being Dr. Octopus, but...
or Victor Freeze being Frozen.
Or, Pamela Isley.
Yeah. That's just...
Yeah. They just really didn't stretch too much in those early days.
I mean, they were probably writing like 5-6 books and just shoving them out. They weren't like... They were lighter... there wasn't as much emphasis on stories and stuff like it is now. They didn't really take themselves too seriously.
Everybody remembers the story of Dr. Holly Quinzel. She was originally a doctor. She was a psychologist who went to Arkham and started working with the Joker and ended up falling in love with him, and also him being a master manipulator was able to warp her mind into Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Never was there a sidekick more loyal than Harley. Harley loved her man unconditionally.
Harley's a great character. Man, what blows me away, she used to be like, on the old animated show, she was like a background, like one-shot character. And if you go to like a Hot Topic now, it's like, boom, it's like half their store.
Yeah, Harley was originally introduced in the Batman the Animated Series. She was not originally a comic character. A lot of people don't realize that. I didn't realize that for a while, honestly. I thought she was in the comics like before they introduced her, but no. Animated series original, they brought into the comics due to her popularity.
And she's probably, she might be their most, she's probably run up there with Wonder Woman as far as their most popular female character now.
Yeah, when you go with, and that's something that's really missing. If you go with modern general public love, then yeah, Harley is definitely up there with Wonder Woman, and there aren't enough strong female characters for girls to look up to.
Yeah, I think Marvel's going to look into. I think they're going to make the Captain Marvel movie, which should help.
It's kind of finding more people love more girls like Harley than they do Batgirl.
Yeah. That's strange. Or Catwoman, even.
Catwoman, yeah. Well, different kind of girl loves Catwoman.
Oh, yeah.
When he shows up and completely carrying a whip.
But Catwoman's always pretty accurate. The most iconic of his rogues. I'd say if you ask like anybody over the age of 40, they'd probably be more familiar with Catwoman.
Yeah, I mean, and that's due to the fact that she's played by Julie Newmar, Eartha Kitt, and
Michelle Pfeiffer even later on.
I think there's a third.
Oh, Eartha Kitt, Julie Newmar. Lord, I have to look that up. That's gonna bother me.
Yeah, me too.
You're a little muffled, my friend.
I'm sorry.
There we go.
It's my fault.
Catwoman. That's gonna bother me.
No, let's think of it later.
Lee Merriweather.
Oh, that's right.
There we go.
Yeah. That was gonna bug me all night. I was gonna say anybody listening, they can call in.
Yeah.
We actually have live listeners. Well, that's all I kind of got right now for Batman. You got anything to add to that?
Well, it's the few notes that the music like is a heavier metal than like the Batman the Animated Show is like an orchestrated theme, based sort of like the Danny Elfman score. But in Batman Beyond, they go to more of a metal sound to it.
It was a very metal future, kind of a punk metal hybrid almost, and I would definitely keep that because it fits that cyberpunk theme. And I know a lot of people would try to go right now as pop culture leans to is going towards dubstep because that feels like the future. But I'm going to stick my stance that dubstep is not music. If all of your sound is coming out of simply pressing the space bar, it's not instrument. I'm sorry. I might get hate mail for that, but whatever.
Yeah, I think dubstep would be a little too obvious.
We had enough of it in Superman, Man of Steel.
Yeah, I'd hire a band and be like, I'd probably hire a band for the score too. Like I'd have the orchestrator.
I would keep the original theme.
Yeah. But then for the rest of the score.
Yeah, well, you can definitely hire a band, but you got to just kind of keep it in that future cyberpunk mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just depends on. There's definitely a few bands out there that can cover that. I wouldn't, but I'd also make sure because there are a lot of scenes they're gonna require an orchestra sound to it. Certain scenes, and you might want to mash that up just depending. I think Danny Elfman could definitely supervise what was going on because he's always well understood the music that it takes for a Batman film.
Well, sort of an orchestra, you could do the synthesizer. Like that's what Blade Runner used.
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah,
I mean they didn't use it all, but they used it a bit.
That's true.
So I think music would have a big part to make it feel futuristic.
Oh, and then it goes to the whole package. I mean, you have to get everything right. You have to get the scenery, the characters, the writing, and the music all flowing in the same direction. Because if you don't, if you're missing a key component, then the whole piece falls flat.
Yeah. And I was also thinking the Batcave should have a lot of your Easter eggs. Like for the fanboys, they can sort of piece what happened before the movie, like with Bruce Wayne and the Batcave. Like the Batcave is its own like historical museum almost.
Oh, it is, and it always has been for him. Man. A lot of the biggest capers of his life, they're monuments to it, and like the giant penny.
Yeah.
The T-Rex that's in there, and also the kind of memorial wall he has of everyone's gear. You have their costumes put up. But they've got so everybody who's either retired or has unfortunately fallen would still be there. You'd have Tim Drake's costume there. You'd have Dick Grayson's stuff right there.
But I was thinking, even if you didn't mention like Nightwing, Dick Grayson, if he just had his uniform there, it would make people happy.
It would make me all kinds of happy, and that's somebody who never got introduced in the Batman Beyond animated series. Surprisingly.
So that'd be interesting to see him back.
I would just like to see him maybe pop up in the final battle, or maybe because Dick was never Bruce.
No, he was lighter-hearted.
He was much lighter-hearted. He didn't go dark and brooding like Bruce did. He kind of kept himself. And I could see Dick becoming something much more public eye.
What if he was married to Barbara?
Yeah, I mean, him and Barbara are always supposed to be meant to be together. I can see him being mayor.
Yeah.
Of Gotham.
But I think his and Bruce's relationship shouldn't be too good.
No, I would definitely have seen
estranged.
That. Well, Bruce kind of has an estranged relationship with everyone.
Yeah.
Barbara, definitely would say the same thing with Dick. I mean, he's a very angry, bitter old man who has pushed everyone his life away. And, Alfred's his only constant friend has always been Alfred. Alfred has been long dead at this point. Yeah. That would probably make him 150 if he were still alive.
Would you skip Jason?
I'd have his stuff in the cave, but yeah, I don't want Jason Todd in there. I have no love for Jason Todd. Never have.
I love Jason Todd, but I wouldn't put him in a Batman Beyond movie. It's just nobody really knows who he is, and blah blah blah.
You don't want to cloud everything too much.
Yeah.
Because and it's been proven time and time again. You introduce more than one villain.
Yeah.
And more than one hero, you become very muddled. I mean, even with the Avengers, the first movie, you basically only had one villain. That was Loki.
Yeah, and a bunch of faceless aliens, pretty much.
Yeah, and who cares about faceless aliens? You had Loki, and that was it. When you introduce and that kind of it hurt the Dark Knight in a way, is having Two-Face in there along with the Joker was. I mean, it worked in the end of it, but
I think it works if they're of the same. Like in Guardians, there's like a hierarchy.
It is
Thanos, and then beneath that,
Thanos doesn't do anything.
No,
he turns around, he swivels around his chair, says something, and swivels back.
But you still have like Ronan, and then underneath him is like Nebula. So there's a hierarchy.
Yeah, I mean, Nebula's a sidekick.
But when you have two villains as equals, I don't think it works.
No. It worked for Batman Returns.
Because Selina was a tweener, though.
Selina does a face turn.
Yeah.
So it worked in that regard.
Yeah.
And one of Danny DeVito's greatest films, if any of y'all haven't seen that, go watch Tim Burton's original run with Batman, and Batman Returns.
Yeah, Danny DeVito was amazing in that movie. My favorite part of that movie.
Yeah, I mean, that movie literally scared children. It terrified them, and I don't blame them because there are some really creepy scenes out of Batman. There really are. And same thing with the first Batman. There were some very creepy scenes.
Yeah, I'd say Penguin's even creepier than the Joker.
Depends on really how you do Penguin.
I mean, how Danny DeVito did him.
Oh yeah, definitely. Mountain Dew. Yeah, he was definitely creepier. Just dark and evil and twisted and living in a sewer. That's not the way I do Penguin in my head.
Yeah.
I'm picture Penguin more as just kind of a normal human with a stout body who's a gangster.
Yeah, that's...
just kind of a ruthless, kind of Scarface, Bugsy gangster. That's just my take, though, for Penguin.
Yeah.
But
so in review, we got an old action hero as Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Clint Eastwood. Maybe there's a lot to choose from. Harrison Ford or of that era, 70s, 80s, I'd say, action heroes.
Yeah.
Unknowns for Terry McGinnis and his friends.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Julianne Moore for Commissioner Gordon, Barbara Gordon.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill's the Joker in the third one. Bryan Cranston as Mr. Freeze. And number two, who would you say Derek Powers? We didn't really talk about that in the first one. It's kind of the sleazy businessman turned supervillain.
I mean, you can really kind of go with a lot of different people for that. It might be best to go with an unknown. Shoot. I would like to see a return maybe of. Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, I can't think of the actor's name off the top of my head. Why can't I? Willem Dafoe. I know Willem Dafoe is Green Goblin and Spider-Man, but
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe can really do some creepy. But if we want, Derek Powers is a bit younger. In fact, he's a lot younger than Bruce because he's kind of an up-and-comer. But honestly, and this would be kind of off the wall. Vince Vaughn.
Should be interesting. Do you think he has the acting chops?
He does. Did you ever see? I forget the name of the movie. Him and John Travolta, where he played a psychotic stepfather.
No, I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen. I can't remember the name of the movie off the top of my head, but dear Lord, he was creepy and psychotic. He played it very well. I don't understand why he hasn't gotten his roles off of that.
Probably because of Psycho.
He was great. He played a very psychotic role very well, and it was and it had to be subdued throughout most of the movie because he's got everyone fooled.
Talk about the remake of Psycho?
It wasn't a remake.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying the reason he probably didn't get those type of roles is because he was in the remake of Psycho, and it was not very good.
The remake of Psycho?
Yeah, they did it in live, and they did it in color. Anne Hesh was in it. Vince Vaughn.
I missed that, and thank God I did.
It was a shot-by-shot remake.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, and he was Norman Bates. Vince Vaughn. It was bad. It was real bad.
Well, thank God I missed that.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. I'm going to a small tangent right now. People should not remake classics ever. Certain movies deserve to be remade.
Yeah.
The movies that have stood the test of time are considered paramount to America's foundation of filmmaking should not be remade. Godfather, Casablanca, Star Wars, Indiana Jones,
The Wizard of Oz, I'd say.
Wizard of Oz. Anything in the AFI Top 100 should not be touched.
Yeah. The only old movie classic I would like to see remake, and it's because it was a silent film, is Metropolis. But that'll probably be another episode. You talk about Fritz Lang's Metropolis from 1927.
Don't touch classics. Don't remake Citizen Kane. Come up with an original idea and make it great. But don't touch the classics that don't need to be redone. The only reason remakes need to happen is because the original concept was good, but the movie execution was not.
Yeah, like Scarface, the 80s one was a remake. But it topped, what they could do before, And I watched the newer Disney Oz movie, the one with Mila Kunis as the Wicked Witch. And man, it was so boring. Like, you'd think with all the technology they have now that they could make a better movie. I mean, it's kind of like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was worse than the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
It was. It really was. And Willy Wonka is a great film. And, Gene Wilder nailed it.
Oh, yeah.
But Tim Burton's remake was just awful. Awful. And the same thing with Alice in Wonderland. He did Alice in Wonderland.
I like Tim Burton, but I think he's better with original things like Edward Scissorhands and stuff like that.
Well, he was good with Batman. I mean, Batman.
Yeah. But Batman, the measuring stick was Superman, and basically a bunch of junk like 70s.
The original Captain America movie.
Yeah. That stuff. I mean, there wasn't much to compare it to at the time, but he did a good job with Batman.
What do you think was original Captain America or the original Fantastic Four?
The 90s Fantastic Four, like the one that didn't even hit theaters?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one. Because it's only bootleg, right?
It's only bootleg. I've seen it. It's horrible.
Yeah. I'll see it sometime. Like if it ever shows around, like if it pops up somewhere, I'd watch it. But yeah,
it's awful. It's horrible, and it is as bad as Captain America.
Here's the thing I was thinking. Like this is goes another tangent. Instead of rebooting superheroes, why don't they do it like James Bond? Where you just don't bring up the fact he looks different.
Well, I think you get to play it off with Bond because I don't think James Bond is necessarily a person. I think James Bond is more of a code name.
Well,
being James Bond is a title.
Yeah, but he got married in one movie, and then the next movie it was a different actor. His wife, he got married in one, his wife got killed at the end. The next movie was a different Bond actor, but he still visited her grave. So that kind of shut down that theory. I've seen that theory before, but
was that in the Roger Moore era?
I think it went from Connery to maybe Moore. Maybe that's what happened. But it's two different Bonds, but they kept the same thing. Because that kind of throws a wrench. Because I've heard that too. That James Bond was just a code, but I don't know. I think Spider-Man. It just changed actors. Don't even think about it. Like talk about it.
Yeah. It didn't need to be. We didn't need another origin.
No.
Because we did that in 2000. No, it was later than that. We did. It was either 2002.
Yeah. Like Batman Beyond, you need Terry. You need to tell Terry's origin because he's a new character. But God, plus I don't want to see Bruce Wayne's dead parents again.
Well, luckily, we're not going to have to do that this time.
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying. It's that doesn't need done. I don't need to see the rocket from Krypton for Superman. I mean, they've been done so many times. Everybody knows it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just. I mean, Man of Steel was just like, well, I don't need to see this. You can have these weird dragon creatures and stuff. It's just. It's like keep it simple, stupid.
I wants to follow the KISS principle, and they want to make their own origin, and it doesn't need to be done because if you don't know the origin of Superman or Batman at this point, then that is your own fault because those are the stories we've known since we were old enough to read.
Yeah, so I wouldn't touch Bruce's origin at all in this. I'd go with straight Terry's. Now Bruce could mention something. He could tie something in with his, but we're sure as hell not going to see a flashback to Crime Alley.
No. I mean, I could see maybe a little something like Bruce taking a stroll downtown in his cane and going through Crime Alley and laying some roses down.
Yeah, but you don't need to see flashbacks of his origin.
Simple with lays roses on Crime Alley. If people don't know that, then they're just kind of piece it together.
I'd love to see a futuristic Crime Alley.
I think Crime Alley would just kind of stay the same. Just you would have kind of a little bit more neon billboards around it.
Yeah, like more like the Blade Runner type.
Blade Runner, yeah. It would still be dark, dirty, crime-ridden, like New York in the 70s, but with some just stuff around it, new neon signs, 3 times advertising porn.
Yeah.
Really done. That's a good use of 3D hologram, actually.
I guess we'll wrap up this episode. Basically, just laying out the broad strokes on the Batman Beyond trilogy. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
I'd like to add to everyone listening that it is Monday, the February 16th, and I'm trapped in what appears to be 8 inches of snow. So I hope everybody out there is staying cozy.
All right, well, take care, everybody. We'll have another episode for you sooner than we did this one.
We promise.
So take care.
Bye, everybody.